Paris Island is on the edge of a superhuman revolution, but are these bang babies the same as the ones we've seen before? Well, let's hop into the pages of Blood Syndicate issue number 2 and find out together, shall we? Well, now isn't this a little interesting narrative device? The first issue was all about Rolando, aka the bang baby who will become Tech 9, but the second issue switches the perspective almost entirely, and this time around our point of vantage is one Hannibal White, Rolando's World War buddy, who has also just so happened to return home to the States, and while Rolando wanted nothing more than to get in touch with his old running buddies on the street, Hannibal, aka the man who will one day become Y's son, wanted nothing more than to reconnect with his own family. The only problem is that their relationship was super strained even before he left to the war. It seems that Hannibal's dad was a fire and brimstone fundamentalist type who was always quick with his belt, so you can imagine it's pretty hard for Hannibal to have to tell his parents that while fighting overseas he ended up converting to Islam after he met a woman, though their meeting is not your typical Hollywood meet cute. They were actually enemies on the battlefield. And it would seem after some sort of mysterious attack or catastrophe, they were the only two left standing. Not only did they both survive, but they both had brand new superpowers when everything was said and done. If that sounds surprising or maybe even a little confusing given everything else we've learned about how people get powers in the Milestone universe, don't worry, because the characters in the story are also trying to wrap their heads around it. In the one little aside this issue, when we actually check back on in with Rolando and Carlos, they try comparing notes about everything they've learned so far. Keep in mind, they didn't even know each other had powers until that drive-by. Carlos also speaks more openly about his own bang baby power to fade through solid objects, and of course, if you're a fan of the old Blood Syndicate, you'll know Fade is the superhuman name he takes. Though, unlike the original 90s stories, Carlos doesn't stay ghostly white all the time. In fact, that was a long-running joke in the old Blood Syndicate books where characters would often mistake Carlos for being a white guy. Now, we're only 2 issues into Blood Syndicate Season 1, and already a very interesting theme is beginning to form under the surface, and that is all the many complicated reasons that people end up turning to the gang life. As we saw with Rolando last issue, sometimes it's just as easy as the people you know and the block you were born on. For Hannibal, though, things are a little different. He tries his best to open up to his parents about this religious awakening that he's undergone, but once again, they completely throw him out. It's made abundantly clear that perhaps the reason that Hannibal spent so much of his young life running the streets and looking for familial connections in gangs is because he wasn't getting any of that stuff at home. It's really sad, actually, and in fact, it only gets worse, too, as Hannibal tries to look up his baby mama and son, only to find out that they seemingly also don't want anything to do with him, feeling abandoned when he ran off to join the military. It's here at his absolute lowest that Hannibal ends up getting approached by one of his old gang friends from the Blue Street Syndicate. Again, this story we're reading is a prequel, and the official Blood Syndicate group hasn't formed yet, but as you'll remember from old Blood Syndicate stories, they actually started life as 2 other gangs coming together. And that pretty much seems to be the trajectory of this story right now. We also learned that Hannibal's old street name was Bull, get it? Short for Hannibal. The man who will be Y's son doesn't want to ride with his old running buddies, especially as they're talking about how the city is changing and how all the gangs are tooling up for something big. But the more he starts to think about it, if his family doesn't want anything to do with him, I guess the only people he has left is his surrogate family to watch out for him, especially in a place like Paris Island where old street grudges aren't so easily forgotten. Later at a big gang meeting for the Blue Street Syndicate, we see that these guys are upping their game to deal with a brand new superhero-laden world. They have gotten their hands on advanced military-grade weapons that they think will give them the edge on the likes of Icon and Rocket, while also helping them take out all the other crews and gain control of Paris Island once and for all. And this plan might very well have worked too, were it not for the intervention of Genocide, who, using his bang baby powers, completely incinerates the leader of the Blue Street Syndicate before going on a whole Cyrus from the Warriors monologue. He basically says with the rise of superpowers, the future has come to Paris Island, and that future won't have colors, won't have crews and sets. One gang could rule this island. We could tax the police, the syndicates. The way I see it, the future is ours if only you follow me, which unfortunately the Blue Street Syndicate decide that they don't want to, and they all end up getting burnt to death for it. Well, say what you want about Genocide, but he certainly lives up to his scorched earth name, doesn't he? The only survivor of this attack is of course Hannibal. He only lived because of his superpowers activating. Unfortunately, when he comes out of the burning building, he's met by the local cops. At best, they think he's a valuable witness who they want to make talk, and at worst, they think that he's the guy who did it, or someone who they could easily pin the whole crime on as the comic comes to a close. And so that was Blood Syndicate issue number 2, everybody, and I would say that this is an even stronger issue than the debut. Maybe it's just because I think Y-Sun is a more instantly sympathetic character, but I could be wrong. Also, while I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, I think I can see where this series is going now. We have Rolando on one side of a big brewing gang war and his war buddy on another side. Meaning that whether they like it or not, these two are almost certainly going to be on a crash course by the time it's all said and done, and from that, perhaps Blood Syndicate as we know it will be born. Beyond that, I love the art and design work here. Juan Castro and Chris Cross do a great job making this new version of Paris Island feel both familiar but fresh and exciting. Likewise, on the writing front, Jeffrey Thorne is really making some complex and nuanced main characters for us to follow. There's a layer of non-judgmental authenticity to everything going on here that I think a book like Blood Syndicate desperately needs if it's gonna make it. Overall, I'd give this one a very positive 8.5 out of 10. Hey there everyone, it's your old pal Cape Joel again, thanking you so much for watching to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, why not check out my Amazon link down in the description. Yes, that's right, the Cape Joel channel officially has its own Amazon storefront now. You can pick up a comic or anything else for that matter, and if you did, you'd really be helping me in the channel. So with that out of the way everyone, I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.